The end of the entertainment industry as we know it could be here by the end of next year, 2026. That's the prediction from some of the biggest companies out there paying attention to the AI revolution. Now, they're saying 1/3 of all long format, that's movies and TV shows, animated, could be made by AI. Today, we'll lay out the timeline and let you know what's going down and why it's happening so much faster than almost anyone saw coming. Well, folks, you may not have to wait on Toy Story 6 or 7, because guess what? The AI just might make it for you. Your very own customized Toy Stories, one after the other, day after day. That's what they say at big places like Tencent, and we know you might not like that company. I don't think I do, but that's what they're saying, and others are saying the same thing, including places like Disney. We'll dive in, complete and total revolutionizing of the industry, and it starts next year. It starts now. Click the like button, drop a comment down below. We'll tell you what's on the docket, and we'll rock it. Here comes the change Hollywood is facing. 2027 could be the end of entertainment as we know it. Variety is reporting this. It's from Marcus Lim. Variety, friends. This is not some sort of ragtag, ridiculous outlet. I know it's a Hollywood trade, but still, they've got this on the brain. AI. And some of you out there, every time we talk about artificial intelligence, you say goodbye. But I'm telling you, you want to be here. You want to see this because it's really close now. And we've been talking about it with you for years, right? Back before it was well known, back when people said, no, bro, that's not going to happen. AI could drive a third. Listen to this. AI could drive a third, not of 15 seconds, not of 20 seconds. AI could drive a third of long form film and animation by 2026, China's Tencent says. Now, notice that if it says by 2026, that means by next year, by December of 2026. So long as it does this at any point in 2026, that's when this article comes true. Let's see what it says. Generative AI is poised to reshape the supply of premium screen content, with the vice president of Chinese online media giant Tencent and CEO of Tencent Video Sun Zhongwei forecasting that as much as a third of long-form film and animation could be dominated by or deeply involving AI within 2 years, despite lingering concerns around performance fidelity and visual consistency. Speaking in a forum at the 7th Hainan Island International Film Festival, Sun predicted a dramatic shift in premium television and film content creation in the next few years. Quote, from a time dimension, looking in the next 1 or 2 years, we have every reason to expect visible changes in the platform's content supply structure. In core categories such as film, television, and animation, works dominated by or deeply involving AI could potentially reach a proportion of between 10 and 30%. Pointing to short-form content, Sun concluded that the race has already been won by generative AI products. Short content is like fast-moving consumer goods, ruthlessly pursuing efficiency. In this regard, the short dramas and short animations we know have already taken the lead, drastically lowering costs. We estimate that AI native companies for short animations now account right now for nearly 30% of the market. All right, so here's what we got to talk about, gentlemen. If this is true, and I really do believe this, and I'll tell you why in just a second. If this is true that 1/3 of animation, and we're talking about long format now, we're not talking about 15, 20 seconds, we're talking about 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, an hour plus. If 1/3 of that by the end of 2026 is going to be driven by AI, companies like Disney now have to act. And the way they have to act is, can I greenlight a $200 million Pixar movie if AI by 2027 or 2028, if it can make that for 1/10 of the cost and maybe make it better by that point, can I greenlight Toy Story 6? Can I greenlight Incredibles 4 or whatever? This is what now all studios have to wonder. It's here. The time is here. And I could ignore this and then we can cover it when it gets here, or I can inform everybody so that they know what's going on. I know some people hate Tencent. I know you don't like China. I got it. But I'm here to tell you it's coming, and it's going to come from American companies as well. It's going to come from OpenAI. It's going to come from Gemini. It's going to come from Grok and Sora and culture. Here's the deal. Here's why. Banana. Here's why it's at your door. Here's why 2026 is the light switch.
Well,
the reason is culture. Since OpenAI came out with ChatGPT, since they started, and since generative AI started, do you know the level of improvement that we've seen?
It's been exponential. It's not even calculable.
22,000 X improvement in generative AI since we began. The research on this stuff started in 2012.
Yeah, and it's only going to get faster and faster. We're at that scale level that I don't think anybody can deny. It's the same rate at which we develop processing speed and memory growth and everything else. This is subject to the same kind of exponential growth and calculations that Moore's law is. So I'm looking at it going forward. And I'm going to tell you, I'm already worried because I'm watching creators being displaced by AI slop, and it's not even very good yet. It's going to be better. There's going to be a lot of short form video that you're going to get on YouTube that won't be a creator behind it. It'll be the problem, somebody in a sweatshop just typing in random prompts.
So the problem culture, and I'll stay away from the big terms that get us deep in the weeds, like agentic YouTube channels. We'll stay away from that for a minute. But culture, the problem is you could say, well, you guys, you can outperform it. And I don't want to get in this situation where we're like the musicians right now who are saying, you've got to stop it. Don't listen to its music. I don't want to do that. What I want to say is YouTube needs to do what X is doing. X is setting up a system where they're identifying who's authentically human. That was the whole reason for that geolocation thing. They didn't want to say it, but that's what it is. When it comes to YouTube, my knowledge is YouTube doesn't have anything right now that's saying this is authentically a human behind it. Even if they're using AI, it's an authentically human. What we don't want and what's happening, what's disrupting YouTube right now and wiping out a lot of your favorite content creators is that there are, let's say, a massive inload of YouTube channels that are just AI slop. Yeah. They're producing at a level that YouTube was never designed to handle. So if you have such a vast number of these channels that are coming in with ultra low quality effort, it still is Vine. It's still competing with the other channels. And the volume is such that the platform wasn't designed to handle it. That's the problem.
Well, and because they have to host all of our channels and they have to host all of our live streams and everything else, the creators are being shoved to the side in direct competition with the very low effort garbage that we're seeing out there.
Is that coming for Hollywood too, though?
Yeah, but it's going to increase YouTube's costs. And I think that might begin a process where they start to evaluate whether or not they're going to allow for AI slop to displace creators or if they still want high quality content. I don't think they've reached the tipping point yet. I think the guy that's in charge right now is very much in favor of the fastest, cheapest way to get things out there.
So here's the thing, all right? So there are YouTube channels right now, they just started. Yeah. Because all this just became available.
Today.
There are YouTube channels that have just started. They take paintings. I don't know if you've seen this culture. They take paintings from like the 1400s, and then they run that through AI. So they bring the painting to life so that you can experience what it would have been like to live in the 1400s, and they do a tour of the town and all that kind of stuff. Right. That's really cool. I'm all for that. Great. Yeah. Then there are these channels that are taking like the voice of Dr. Peterson or Bill or Dennis Prager or
Victor
Davis Hanson. Yeah. They're taking these political commentators and philosophical commentators, and they're stealing their voice, and then they present the channel as if it's them. That I have a problem with, right? But the problem is you've got so many of these channels flooding that it's disrupting the system. That's about to happen at mass scale with animation, like within the next 12 months.
Well, and that's why your point about is Disney prepared to compete with companies in China like Tencent and others that are, video game companies that have their hands in technology and in, video style development that, are set to displace them in an animation field that they don't have animators. They don't have any of these people. They have people entering prompts to give us something cute. And they've got a blueprint. I mean, I'm sorry, Niza too. They could just keep iterating from there. And the same thing with almost anything. They can actually just, in China, they have no scruples. So they'll just steal other ideas and other stories from Disney and other competitors, Don Bluth and things, and essentially feed that into, their own prompts, and we'll get more and more garbage like that.
Now, let me go to Lauren real quick. Lauren, we're going to have an interview coming up very soon of a man who he's been using AI, and he just released a holiday special. He's getting tens of thousands of views at least on it. It's wonderful. I mean, it's a full-blown holiday special, and it beats Hollywood in 100 different ways. We're going to interview him and how he did it, because he's at the cusp, right? He's at the edge. He's ahead of most people. But this is coming next year. Lauren, I support the people who use this for their own creativity. What I worry about is a deluge of content that isn't of that same quality, especially when it comes to the non-discernment of kids, right? So if you think about this, Lauren, Cocomelon, right? I'm not against it, but Cocomelon, there's a lot of that Cocomelon stuff that's just kind of, I don't know if it's worth watching, but kids don't know that. They'll sit there and watch the pretty colors. And if there's a massive flood of animation coming out of just, really low effort AI, I think that's a bad way for us to go. But I don't know how to stop it, and I don't know what to do about it. What are your thoughts?
I have less concerns about that, because when you're talking about that kind of thing, whose responsibility is it to police their kids?
Wait a minute. Cross the T minus the X plus the Y. Parents.
And when you think about the quality of the content, that's something that the marketplace will sort out. You're right that a mass deluge of low-quality content can choke out the good stuff, but it also drives away the audience, and so there is less benefit to creating the low-quality stuff. The low-quality stuff dies on the vine, and then you start seeing the quality stuff return. That's a self-correcting problem, in my opinion, so I don't worry about that. I think the interesting part of this conversation comes on the legal side, because our laws are way behind when it comes to copyright and trademark law.
They're not going to catch up.
And they're not going to, but you have Disney trying to set precedents with this deal that they've set with OpenAI and the cease and desist that they've sent to Google. So I think they're trying to get ahead of the game to try and set some kind of precedents. I don't think it's going to work. To me, the interesting aspect of this conversation is, can copyright and trademark law survive? And is that potentially part of the reason why China is making these predictions? Because they're certainly interested in subverting our copyright and trademark laws. They do not recognize them. Are they trying to weaken them here themselves by pushing people towards this and their own solutions?
So let me lay out a timeline here for people so they can understand, because a lot of people think this is way off, and I don't think it is anymore, because everything I'm paying attention to says this is moving faster than even the San Fran crowd thought it was going to go. So here's what I think happens. I think by the end of 2026, we're seeing disruption where massive amounts of actual long format animated content is now normalized. And I think the AI slop stuff will start to fade away. And the reason I think that'll fade away, you'll see a big pushback from artists, but if people adopt something, there's nothing you can do about it. Once people start adopting it, that train has left the station, and it's going to leave it fast. The next thing I think happens is in 2027, I think we start to see some of this stuff appear on places like Disney Plus. And I think that Disney and these other companies, they're going to have to figure out a way to get around this voice issue. They're going to have to pay these voice artists or something to say, we want your voice for perpetuity. Like, that's it. Because otherwise you're going to get blown away with the competition. And then by 2028, folks, 3 years from now, by 2028, I think we're going to be in a reality where you can ask to have at least an animated cartoon that's 15 minutes, but probably longer than that. You're going to be able to ask to get whatever you want, and you'll watch something nobody else has ever seen because it's a movie made for you or a TV show. And the reason I say that, because right now with Grok, I can ask it to tell a child a story, and it will invent a full 5-minute story. And I've tested this. It's excellent every time. It's phenomenally well done. It's at the level of some of the best children's authors. When you put that together with video generation, and as fast as we're moving and increasing that capacity, when you put that together, by 2028, it's going to be in your home. You're going to be asking for an episode.
Well, let's look at two things, statistics and practice. When they say 30% will be this stuff, yes, but it's 30% of a much bigger number than existed in the past because of this stuff. So if you have
That's a great point.
If you have 5 or 10 times as much product out there, period, having a percentage of it doesn't mean the same thing as if it was the same number.
That is a really, really good point.
Well, thank you very much. Here's another one. I used to work with a guy named Tony Verna, who invented the instant replay, among other things. And I've seen the tape of the first time they tried it. And the announcers, I think it was Pat Summerall, had to say, ladies and gentlemen, they have not scored another touchdown. That is a replay of the one you just saw. Okay? But he said, someday we'll have so many cameras and so many choices, you'll be able to sit in your home and pick which angle you want to watch of the game. But all of that may be true as far as capability. The question is, are you Tony Verna? Answer, no, you're not. Does he have a better knowledge, experience, technique to show you what tells the story better than you do? Yes, he does. So it's all a question of what people are willing to sit still for. When you said these stories that you had were as good as some children's authors, I think that's amazing and wonderful. But the reason those children's authors got to be who they were is because they had something special and unique.
Yes. And
if all of this stuff is wonderfully mimicking something unique, it's not creative, it's imitative.
Yes, well, that's exactly right. But Lou, here's the thing, though. The people you're talking about who are the most creative, you give them this power, they can be 10 times more creative, or at least they have 10 times the more bandwidth to put out their creativity. So the most creative among us stand to benefit the most from this. And yet Hollywood's fighting it tooth and nail, and I understand why. I get it. It's existential. But the creativity explosion that's about to happen is tremendous, both good and bad.
But let's just say this. What made it possible was that the creativity of the so-called professionals got dumped in favor of political messaging.
Yeah, well, yes.
If they hadn't opened that window, there wouldn't be this opportunity.
Hey, Coulter, give me just 1 second. Let me get Santa in, and then we'll come back to you. Hey, real life Izzard, Santa. Yes. I'll tell you, one of the amazing things about all of this and watching it and people still disbelieving that this is going to happen, I have been amazed by how quickly people just accept technological gains as if they've always been. And one of those examples, Mr. Santa, is that for 80 years, people talked about the Turing test. When could a computer trick you into thinking it's a human? And we put that forward as like, that would be a huge moment in time. That would be huge. I'm pretty darn convinced we passed that now. I think a computer could convince you, if you didn't know, if you're just chatting with it, the top of the top could probably convince, the average person that it's a real person on the other end of the phone. And it didn't make, it didn't even make the news cycle. We just passed it like it was nothing. It was 80 years in the making. People predicting that would be a huge moment in history because we're moving so quickly that when the Turing test was passed this year, nobody even talked about
it. And nobody's going to talk about it, and we're going to keep flying on this train track, this runaway train track, until it reaches the logical conclusion, which is something I think you were alluding to, and I almost want to disagree with Lauren's point about AI sorting itself out, because it's just going to come down to companies like Disney and Tencent in the gaming industry are going to say, all right, we can't make things the way you want them anymore, but go ahead, you make it yourself, and then we'll air it on Disney Plus so that everybody else can watch what they want to with our Star Wars characters and our Disney characters.
That's where I want to interject against your point and Lou's, because
let's go fisticuffs, Lauren.
Because we're thinking of this as only being imitative, and it doesn't have to be. It could be more like 3D printing or rapid prototyping, in which you create your own designs. You build your own images or your own models or whatever it is that you want to have, and then you put that into AI. This is your design. It's not imitating somebody else's, but you're giving it its own style guide to then generate from that to, for instance, speed up the process of animation. It's not using somebody else's model. It's not using somebody else's trademarked IP or copyright. It is something that you have created but it speeds up the process.
Well, I think we're going in two different directions now with that. I'm saying Disney on their own is going to allow users to make their own versions of Star Wars movies to tell the stories in Star Wars they want to tell.
Yes, that they will own if their legal theory proves true. And so I agree with you there. And depending on how you look at it, that's a problem, maybe. But AI itself and the generative process is just a tool. It's just a tool.
Yeah, but
it's a tool that's been trained on. It's a tool that's been trained on real stuff. That other people created. That's
here's the question.
Not always. You can train it on your own stuff. It doesn't have to be trained from somebody else's stuff. That's my point.
The odd thing about that, though, too, is that we got to throw in, has there ever been a human that wasn't trained on other stuff? We all sit on the shoulders, right? It's the magnitude of what this thing can do that really,
infinite iterations is the problem. And look, I'm going to give you some cold hard facts since 2019.
Give it to us. What do you got?
Over 50,000 jobs in Hollywood have been lost at this point, and those jobs were lost largely because of stupidity of the studios, as Lou already pointed out a moment ago. Right, you're already down somewhere between 40 and 50% in production starts, and that's not inconsequential because it's across everything. It's across film, television, and commercial production. You're seeing record lows as far as starts go that were unimaginable prior to the pandemic, which again was, really the kind of starting point here. And then you have Hollywood and all their infinite wisdom. And of course, I'm being incredibly facetious when I say that, about ready to go into strike mode, aren't they, Lou?
No.
You're sure?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Lou, why do you say? Because we've heard that the WGA is ready to strike.
I heard. Well, the Writers Guild, anybody's guess. They're crazy. Trust me.
Well, they're also the ones facing the most imminent existential threat from this stuff.
Their problem is that the governor wants to run for president, and he don't need no more economic trouble for his state. That's their problem.
Well, they basically allowed for so much fraud, over $56 billion over the last few years, that the state of California is just crushing debt
telling you,
situation.
The stuff that the writers got last time that they thought was good for them was bad.
Was terrible.
For them.
It was really bad.
And so
you put the nanny in charge of your stuff. That's the problem.
Poor Fran.
But the pros screwed it up too. The staff people. How can I say this? The Writers Guild, God, I will never forget when I used to go to meetings during strike situations, and you'd see these 30-somethings driving Mercedes who would get up and express their solidarity with John L. Lewis and the labor movement.
Oh, man.
After they went home to Brentwood, and it was like, what planet are these people living on?
Let me just suggest that it's quite possible here, Lou and everyone else out there, that we're suffering from some of the hangover of overproduction that was created by streaming services like Netflix, which is on the screen right now. Because the amount of garbage that was produced, really.
But if you produce really good stuff that people like, it's not overproduction.
Right, but if you produce garbage,
the quantity's value.
Exactly. And Disney's equally as guilty. They all were.
More so.
Yeah, and so when you look at it, I mean, one of the reasons why entertainment's considered cheap now or less valuable is because they didn't protect the commodity that they were producing.
Yeah,
get in here, Wiz, real quick. What do you got?
Yeah, there's one really strong point I wanted to make before.
We'll be the judge of that.
With this. There's something like we're talking about it from the Hollywood perspective, and that's really important. I also want to throw another angle in there that connects to the Hollywood perspective. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when AI was starting to become a thing, we had computer engineers, content creators that are computer engineers, all across the zeitgeist saying, oh, AI is never going to be able to do the job of a computer engineer because it's just never going to be good enough. Okay, November 18th, 2025, Google dropped Gemini 3. A couple days later, November 24th, 2025, we had Claude dropped Opus 4.5. Right. And just a few days ago, we got ChatGPT 5.2 on December 11th. All three of which are able to create computer engineered code to an extent they never imagined possible, and we're just scratching the surface.
Software on demand.
Hollywood here, but now you're gonna have people with laptops able to make video games in a couple of days.
This is so poignant. What you're saying is so poignant. It's changed our business here. People don't know this. I'll let you step behind the scenes a little bit. Jonas needed something, and it takes a lot of work. And I said to Jonas, hey, would you like me to create that software for you? I can probably single prompt that into existence. It had to do with video editing. And he was like, are you serious? And I said, yeah, I think these new frontier systems can actually single prompt. I think we can one-shot a piece of software that will do what you're asking for. That is where we are right now. This is the level of change. And I was talking about this with somebody the other day. Think about for a minute how fast this is going. This is unbelievable to me. From Windows 95 to Windows 98. For those of you who were live and remember this, think about the changes from Windows 95 to Windows 98. And think about, that was 3 years. The level of change that you see from when Google releases Gemini 3 to ChatGPT 5.2, the changes are immense. They're bigger than Windows 95 to 98, and it took a week for OpenAI to red alert themselves into ChatGPT 5.2. 3 years was not as big a difference in the 90s as 1 week today in AI. We've never seen a tech like this, ever.
Yes, but there are two limiting factors that we haven't really talked about in the panel that may adjust some of those expectations. Right now, we're making leaps and bounds advancements in the technology. But one of those limiting factors is going to be availability of RAM, which is going to be a big problem next year because the AI companies are eating it all up.
Not for them, for us.
It's going to be a problem for them too.
But the problem,
happen.
The problem is going to be power. And that is an issue. That's something where there are areas that have cheap, clean, renewable power based on things like hydro, where a lot of data centers are at. But there are other places that are not. And to fill the kind of need that you're going to need for more, you're going to have to start looking at nuclear.
Yes, Mr. Casino. What do you have, Mr. Casino?
Look, I'm going to tell you, you guys are forgetting the most important voice in this whole conversation.
That we have to beat China, and so therefore we'll get whatever energy we have to suddenly? Okay, what do you got?
Elon Musk has developed a constellation of satellites, not just to create an interconnected communication platform, but to get a jump start on what's going to be required for a power generation, infinite power generation from space constellation that is going to lead to, space-based power.
That's what he says. He's in favor of generating power, solar in space, versus the small modular nuclear reactors. That's one of the other plans.
And he's 100%. He's on it because
I like both
of course, he's following Arthur C. Clarke's prediction of decades ago of exactly that.
Yeah, well, and again, it's also kind of a conversation that Nikola Tesla started way back when, essentially broadcasting power.
I get the feeling Elon likes that Tesla guy. I don't know why.
Yeah, he probably does. Is going to be gathering the electricity and redistributing it to the planet via microwaves or antenna arrays. So we're, like I said, and you can also put your supercomputers up there. But here's the other cool thing that nobody thinks about. Everybody that has these amazing Tesla automobiles is driving around in AI right now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, my dad drives a Tesla, and he was telling me a funny story. He said that his Tesla was on full self-driving, and it came to a stop appropriately. Yeah. There was a semi that was trying to pull in front of him, and the Tesla recognized it, did what it was supposed to. And this guy behind him lost his ever-loving mind and was going crazy, really went pretty crazy, even to the point that the guy drove in the median, and is flipping people off.
Yeah, it's kind of a jerk, yeah.
And my dad said, actually, it's not offensive when they do that at the robot. it really didn't bother me because I wasn't the driver. I was just,
He just looks at the guy and says, talk to the car, not to me.
Right.
And again, this is the other problem with, the situation that we're often in when we're driving. We don't think of the other car being another person, another human.
Right. Be kind. Be kind to drivers.
What was it? Yesterday they had a huge power outage in San Francisco.
Yeah, and all the Waymos crashed out.
The Waymos shut off in the middle of intersections.
That's right.
Yeah.
Not because they needed the power to run, but because what they were connected to tell them where to go was shut down.
And the
Waymos were done. Yeah.
The Teslas were fine.
Hey, Andy, let's bring it back home. Andy, if you could, what do you think about this idea that we're a year away, according to some of the biggest companies, we're a year away from 1/3 of animation being done by AI? It's not 5 years away. It's not 10 years away. It's next year. What does it mean for the companies out there, for the artists, for the studios, et cetera?
I think this is going to be similar to the internet and CD production things, where you used to have a studio system for music, and then all of a sudden people could take their music right to the public. Now they don't make the kind of money that they would really like to make, but still they can make something, and it's all theirs. My question is, what happens when you get somebody who's legitimately talented, who has had enough of the studio garbage with the accountants and everything, the financial guys making all these decisions about what's going to get made, what's going to get greenlit, and what's not. And you take somebody who's got actual talent that can make something like this using the AI tools, and now you've got good quality content. You don't have just AI slop. You've got a great storyteller telling a great story with this. And I think it's going to change things a lot. Like right now, think about it. You've got people that are more willing to go and scroll, to do the doom scroll on their phones rather than pay attention to what's on the screen. Is that because the audience is so crippled with an addiction, or is it just because the product on the screen just isn't worth their attention?
It's a great question. It's a great question.
How would they know if they don't see it all? And that stat I mentioned earlier that you said was so profound, about 30% of a much bigger number, you're also fracturing the audience by that expanded number of things to watch, and any one will not get the plurality it used to.
Which will divide the cultural cohesion we saw in like the 80s, the 90s, and of course before that. But we really are in a new territory at this point, and we're going to need the platforms like YouTube, like X, to find a way to help lift up the best content, not the gatekeeping content, not the determined based on who you know content, but literally the best content. It needs to go to the top for everybody to see, so that we can all, as a society, join in and watch it. Otherwise, we'll all be in our little silos, and that's a problem.
Yep. Shared culture. That's what we're missing now, and we can't afford that.
Culture, thank you for sharing yourself, Culture Casino, with us. It is such fun getting to spend time together, folks, but we have come to the end of yet another video. Well, that makes the mainstream scratch their heads, pull their hair out, and wonder, how is it we continue to do what we do? But you know what we do this for? It's for you. To keep bringing all the knowledge of entertainment, explaining what's going on in Hollyweird each and every day. And you can help us continue on that way by clicking the like button, share, subscribe, click it, stick it to those algorithms. It's the notification bell. Share this out on your favorite social media platforms, and we would love to have you drop a comment right on down below. Share your thoughts because, well, your thoughts truly do matter, and we mean it. As we get ready to say goodbye, we end with the common refrain. Folks, wherever you are and whatever you're doing, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.